Hi Taylor, I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm glad you came back.
Yeah, absolutely. I really thought our first session was great. So excited to, keep it all rolling.
Me too. So what's happened since last time I saw you?
A lot, actually. It's been kind of quite a busy, couple of days, weeks, months, as you know. But it's been crazy. I went back to work, so that was good. That was good, and it's been an adjustment.
Absolutely.
So it's been like a good stressor after being furloughed for so long, and then really everything else is kind of status quo. Still having a couple family issues here and there, things fully out of my control. Dating still sucks. My manipulative ex that I told you about, he's still doing his thing. He still won't leave me alone.
Okay.
So I've had to set some boundaries there for myself, and I've had to make some decisions.
Good. That's amazing.
And then kind of just really, I've been working a lot on mindset and trying to do the homework that he gave me and really work on it.
That's amazing. I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we're gonna put an agenda together for today.
Okay.
So today it sounds like we're gonna talk about some of the same issues from last time, self-esteem relating to the boyfriend and males in general. So the reason for the agenda is because we only have a certain amount of time, and I want to make sure that we get to the certain issues today that are most important to you in order to relieve some of those negative feelings.
Okay, great.
So anything else besides what you just said that you'd like to add to our agenda today?
I think anything else I'd want to add is kind of going to derail us and add, it's going to be a different issue that we have to tackle. So.
Okay, besides the self-esteem.
Right. Because I find a lot of it all leads back to that. So I think that's the number one issue.
Okay, so it sounds like that will be the main issue for today's agenda. And we can always add that to our agenda for next time, okay?
Okay, great.
All right. So during our last session, you mentioned being nervous about starting back at your job at Goodwill. How did that go?
Well, it actually, the first couple of days were a strange adjustment, and I think I was kind of like, uh-oh, why did I do this? I kind of had like an uh-oh moment where I was like, is this really what makes me happy anymore? But then as I got back into the swing of things, and then as my position, basically what happened was whenever I was furloughed, I had a promotion that I had just gotten. And I had to leave that promotion obviously due to furlough.
Right.
And so it never really got to fully develop and come into something big.
Right. What you expected.
Right. So then, sure enough, I had 2 slow days at the beginning, and since then it has been slammed, hands-on every single day. Emails won't stop blowing up, phones won't stop blowing up, my to-do list keeps growing, and so it's kept me busy, and it's given me purpose, which has been wonderful. And then it's also taken my mind so much off of maybe the more, I don't want to say unimportant things, but the things that maybe I was spending too much time focusing on before, like the boys and like the sex and things like that. Yeah.
So I remember last time you were saying that you were nervous about kind of a triggering response because when you were at Goodwill before, you were with your ex, and you kind of associated a lot of those bad feelings with being at work. Did anything like that arise?
No, I would say what has been triggering the most for me, I would say, is just the fact that he still has somehow found a way to contact me. And it's still the same old, I miss you, I love you, I want to change, I want to be with you. But then the minute I go to hold him accountable for something that he clearly said and he clearly did, he turns it on me and says it's my fault. So it's really not even been work at all. It's literally just, it's kind of interesting how it's kind of, the cards have kind of laid themselves out. I thought it was going to be work, but it's actually just, he's feeling all of the emotions from last year. He's feeling into, he's very stuck in his head.
Okay.
So now he's reaching out to me, and I feel like I'm actually further ahead and further moved on than maybe I had once thought.
Wow, I'm really proud of you.
Thanks.
That's
good.
Great. Yeah, that's gotta feel great.
Good realization,
Absolutely. So last week I gave you the assignment to replace some of your negative thoughts about yourself with positive ones. And to kind of, when you have that thought pop into your head, I gave you the assignment to start listing out all your successes. Like, well, I have a college diploma, I have a great job, like I'm very successful. How did that go? Did you feel like you completed that assignment last week?
Yeah, so I've been trying to do it in like the form of like gratitude journaling every morning. So like when I wake up and I have my coffee, I try to put on like, you know, some sort of like podcast or worship music or something that's kind of gonna like get my mindset and my mood right.
Yeah.
And then I'll sit there and I'll write down the things that I'm grateful for. And it can even be as simple as like thanking God that I'm alive and He woke me up today, because so many of us don't have that luxury, you know. And then I'll sit there and I'll remind myself as to why I am special and to why I'm wonderful, and all the things kind of like, what is it called, like self-actualization. Like I want to reach that Addie, but I still feel like this is everybody. It's normal, but I feel like I'm still stuck in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, well, you're working on it too,
Yes.
which is a great step.
And I think that many people don't always reach self-actualization in their whole life. Like there's some people who are stuck at, you know, even the bottom sometimes.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you realized that too. It shows me that you are really looking towards your strengths and not as much the weaknesses that you think other people have about you.
Yes.
So going back to our agenda that we set, I want to talk a little bit about some of the feelings of low self-esteem that you have had relating to men, because I know that's been your presenting problem that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really. I sit here and I often rack my brain as to what it is, where it stems from, why it's this way. I've certainly learned that I'm not alone. That like majority of females who I know actually feel the same way, which is sad. So I tend to like, it's like a constant like nature versus nurture argument for me in my head. I'm like, okay, is it just females as a whole, and is it dating in 2020, or is it something that happened that I need to look back into, not even necessarily childhood, but even maybe like middle school, high school, those formidable years.
Yeah.
What was missing? You know, there was a lot of things like very significant events that happened to me during that period, which I think would dull anybody's self-esteem. And then I don't even think it's maybe necessarily with men, but I've come to realize that maybe it's with any sort of close relationship. Like I am always scared that somebody's gonna find somebody better than me, or that like even though they might really be the problem, and I say that like with a lot of variables there, but it's like I always blame myself on people's downfall. And then I'm like, oh, it's my fault. If I was a better girl, if I was prettier, if I was this, if I was that, then they would be better. But I've come to learn that's not the truth, because if people want to be good to you, they're going to be good to you. You shouldn't have to beg anybody.
Absolutely, absolutely. So has there been any situations recently in the past month or so, or anything that stands out to you where you have had an experience like that? Like you felt like the self-worth was just totally like gone?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There was actually an incident where I drank too much, and I did something with a gentleman who was in fact in a relationship. And I think that if I was stronger as a person and didn't need maybe my wounded inner like little bird fed, that like I probably would have never done that, because I wouldn't have been strong enough to put my foot down. And granted, I know if I was stone cold sober, I would have looked at him and I would have been like, nope, absolutely not. But of course, you know, with drinking, that lowers everything. It lowers all of your smart decision making and your rational decisions. So, but that to me, I think that reflects a lot back on how I view myself. And I've been beating myself about it, but I also know that we as humans we all make mistakes. That's the devil.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm glad that you are not so hard on yourself. Do you feel like the drinking is an issue, or was that kind of a one-time thing?
I mean, there's certainly days like where I take it too far. Absolutely. You know, it never starts out that way. I don't feel the urge to drink daily at all. And like, in fact, I feel better the longer I go without having a drink. But I think it's the fact that I'm so incredibly social, and a lot of social life is tied to that. You go out for,
Absolutely,
you know,
yeah.
and then sometimes you just have one too many because you're that line, and you're like, oh, crap.
Okay, so I'd like to teach you a skill to help relieve some of those feelings.
Okay.
So it's called identifying and rating moods.
Okay.
So this is important because it allows us to observe how our moods fluctuate, which can give us insight into the effectiveness of our current strategies. So some of the things we talked about earlier, which is the being aware of our thoughts and replacing them with more positive and real thoughts. So rating our moods also helps us to know which situations or thoughts are associated with those negative changes. Okay.
Okay.
So the main symptom that we've talked about is the low self-esteem.
That's right. Yes.
Okay. I'd like you to think of a situation recently, the one you talked about just now, or one that stands out more. On a scale of 0 from 100, with 0 being not at all and 100 being the most low self-esteem you've ever felt,
Okay.
where were you in that situation?
You know, I guess it's a bad example because that situation, I didn't feel low self-esteem at all. I, in fact, felt the opposite, which is probably why I acted on it. I felt like my ego was being stroked.
Right,
You know?
but after the situation.
After, it made me feel like, you said 0 being the worst.
0 being not at all low
Oh.
self-esteem and 100 being the lowest self-esteem you've ever felt.
I'd say probably like a 4, 5.
4 from 0 to 100?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't horrible. Like, I'm kind of in the middle about it because I also can't be too hard on myself because of the variables of the situation.
Yeah, well good. It sounds like you're doing very well then.
I
So-
do have another example.
Okay.
So every time I go back to my toxic ex and I do things with him I shouldn't do, so I sleep with him or something like that. That makes me feel like a 9.
And
So
do you mean a
bad.
90, 0 to 100? So do you mean a 90?
Oh, 90. Sorry.
Okay.
I thought you were on a 0 to 10.
It's okay, it's okay. So,
Okay. 90.
yeah, I can understand. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
I think I'm just like, I'm a very just like emotional person and I put a lot of faith into people and I think that maybe that somehow one of these days this person is going to realize that I am a good person and I am a catch and that he'll change. But I've come to realize again, I need to stop turning that on myself because it's not me. I've done everything right. It's him. Him issue. It's not an Addie issue.
Yeah.
And I think so I need to just learn to really make sure that that boundary and that like wall for me is like strong. Because that's like he's almost like my kryptonite.
Yeah.
Like gets me.
So maybe next time, we're wrapping up a little bit today, but maybe next time we can add that to our agenda.
Yeah.
Is why maybe why we feel like we keep wanting to go back to that.
Yes.
We can add that.
That fix it mentality.
Yes, exactly. So, just to wrap up a little bit. So last time I gave you the assignment to replace your negative thoughts with the positive ones, listing the successful things about yourself. And today we discussed kind of some of the things that had happened, rating and identifying emotions. As always, I want this to be a collaborative process. So is there any feedback you'd like to give me before we end?
But nothing but positive feedback. I just think that you're really easy to talk to. Your voice is very soothing, very comforting. I feel like I can be honest with you, which I haven't felt that way with a lot of people. I felt like they were still somewhere there was judgment, so where I felt like I couldn't be completely honest. And I think that you ask thought-provoking questions, but that don't make me feel like they don't leave me feeling worse about myself. And I know that it's supposed to be uncomfortable, but a lot of therapists make me feel like absolute dirt instead of feeling like, oh, I can handle it.
Yeah, instead of giving you skills.
Yes.
So next week we're going to remember the rating, and I'm going to ask you a question similar to that again, so then we have that to compare.
Okay.
And thank you so much. I'll see you next week, okay?
Thank you. Can't wait.